They say every great monument tells two stories, one carved in stone and another buried beneath it. In the last video, we explored how the Grand Egyptian Museum wasn't just a modern architectural project, but a national statement designed to unite Egypt's ancient past with its living present.
Because the pyramids are so close to the site, being able to see the pyramids from inside the gallery means that you are looking at the collection and you see pyramids at the same time.
As an artifact.
But amid all the precision and planning, one question still lingers in the sand. Why here exactly? Between ancient Memphis, Old Cairo, and the Giza Plateau. Today, we trace that line, and we ask, is it merely a road, or something far older? A sacred axis drawn by ancient hands thousands of years ago? Perhaps. The Grand Egyptian Museum is in the beginning of a new story, but the return to a point where civilization itself first began. Because sometimes, what appears to be a modern masterpiece is, at its core, an echo of something far older. A design whispered through ages, long before our own. Because even after all this architectural brilliance, the glass, the light, and the perfect alignment with the pyramids, there is a quieter theory, whispered among historians and architects alike. Some believe the Grand Egyptian Museum wasn't just placed near the pyramid, but upon an ancient sacred line, a geographical axis stretching back to the dawn of Egyptian civilization. At first glance, this might sound like something out of the Da Vinci Code, a mix of myth and conspiracy. But the evidence is curious enough to make anyone pause. The museum's location, resting between the Pyramid of Giza to the west and Fustat, the early capital of Cairo, to the east, falls almost perfectly along a single straight axis. That same invisible line passes through several historical landmarks that once shaped Egypt's ancient and modern identity. Egyptologists like Dr. Zahi Hawass have long argued that the ancient Egyptians left little to chance. Their temples, tombs, and even cities were often aligned with the stars, solstice, and the eternal dialogue between heaven and earth. And while the Grand Egyptian Museum is undeniably modern, some architects believe it continues this silent tradition. According to the vision set by Bang architects, the museum was drawn along a series of visual axes, stretching from the Egyptian halls towards the three Pyramids of Giza, ensuring that the ancient monuments remain visible from nearly every corner of the Grand Egyptian Museum. It's as if the architecture itself remembers where it came from.
We wanted to have a connection between the exhibition galleries and the pyramids. They're up at the level of the plateau, which is the desert. And
which is pretty much everything we know, what we know of Egypt is. It's all about death. All the things are about death. Monuments, the tombs, they're all up there on the desert.
So, was this alignment intentional? A deliberate attempt to revive a symbolic axis, linking the cradle of Egypt's ancient power in the west with the birth of its modern capital in the east? Or is it simply an elegant coincidence, a visual harmony we, the storytellers of today, have chosen to read as something deeper? Whatever the truth, The idea of a sacred line adds a quiet mystique to the Grand Egyptian Museum, a sense that it doesn't just stand beside the pyramids, but at the very edge of legend itself. But what if the choice of location wasn't entirely modern? What if the ancients themselves had already marked this place not as a tomb but as a gateway? Since the earliest days of the Old Kingdom, the Western Plateau wasn't viewed as an ordinary ground. In early funerary texts, it appears as a place set apart, a landscape tied to endings, passage, and the fading light of the day. These ideas were not poetic decoration. Religious writing describing the horizon as a threshold, a line where the world of living ends and another realm began, a point of transition from human presence to something divine. Seen this way, the choice of the site was not simply practical or architectural. It carried a cosmic purpose. I believe that this terrain stood closer to the heaven, long before it became stone walls, corridors, and the monumental silhouettes that still rise over the desert today. When the Egyptian government announced the site of the Grand Egyptian Museum, Egyptologist Zahi Hawass remarked that building it on the plateau's edge revives the very ground where the royal history began.
When we decided to make this museum, we first chose the place. We thought it should have connection between the pyramids and the museum.
Modern architects spoke of the same thing, not mysticism but presence. And yet, whispers surround the project. Rumors of tunnels, hidden chambers discovered beneath the surface. But according to official reports by the Egyptian Supreme Council of Antiquities 2018, every cavity uncovered was purely geological, natural caves, not tombs. Still the mystery lingers, because around Giza, even empty rocks seems to hold secrets. So whether this site was chosen by the pharaoh's priest or by 21st century engineers, the Grand Egyptian Museum stands as a rare point of convergence where ancient myth meets modern vision, as if Egypt itself were whispering through the desert wind, "I chose this place long ago." Through every age, nations have built monuments not just to preserve their history, but to speak to the world. Greece raised the new Acropolis Museum in front of Athena ancient temples, declaring, "We are the guardian of classical civilization." Britain created the Stonehenge Visitor Center, linking the modern travelers to its most ancient mystery. But Egypt chose something far bolder. It built the largest archaeological museum on earth, facing the greatest monument ever made by humankind, the Pyramids of Giza. It placed history face to face with eternity. To architects and culture theorists, the Grand Egyptian Museum isn't just a building, it's a civilization statement for the 21st century. After a decade during which thousands of artifacts left for museums abroad, Egypt is quietly, confidently saying, "We are not just the origin of civilization, we are its living center." And the question often asked why now has an answer that goes far beyond economics. Opening this museum in the third decade of the 21st century, at the time when Egypt is reshaping itself for a new era, is a deliberate act of symbolism to build once again for eternity, not merely for the present. The Grand Egyptian Museum is not just a home for release, it's a bridge between generations, a quiet act of cultural diplomacy that tells the world we were the one who began civilization and we are still shaping its image.
Today, as we celebrate together the opening of the Grand Egyptian Museum, we pen a new chapter in history of the present and the future, among other chapters contained in the tale of this ancient nation. Here is the biggest museum in the world dedicated to display a single civilization, Egypt's civilization, whose glamour and grace never dim. This glorious edifice is not only a house for keeping precious relics, rather a live testimony to the genius of the Egyptian man who erected pyramids and engraved on walls the narrative of immortality, a testimony narrating a nation's story to posterity, deeply rooted nation in human history, whose branches still shadow its present to continue giving in service of humanity.
Across more than 5 millennia, Egypt has always defined itself through a single unbroken idea: eternity. From temples carved to withstand the weight of time, to pyramids that still defy wind and sand, each generation of Egyptians has rebuilt that idea in its own way. And today, the Grand Egyptian Museum rises as the newest expression of the same truth: eternity rebuilt in the 21st century. But this time it wasn't built to glorify a king. It was built to honor humanity itself. The visitor who climbs the monumental staircase sees the pyramids exactly as the ancient builders once did, and for a fleeting moment feels the history isn't something behind us, but something alive, watching from within the stone and the light. In its architecture, in its alignment, there lies a message deeper than beauty, deeper than tourism. That time in Egypt is never erased, only retold. What the pharaoh once did with stone, modern Egypt now does with the glass and light. Both acts carry the same purpose: to tell the world the story of humankind's greatest faith, that civilization can outlast death itself. So, in the end, the Grand Egyptian Museum is not merely a showcase of artifacts. It is the latest chapter in the saga that began thousands of years ago, a saga called Egypt. The Grand Egyptian Museum, where time itself takes a breath.